Cheers, everyone. Justin Soderberg back for another episode of the Main State of Mind podcast here to talk with Adam Morrisette of Dirigo Draft Line Services. A good friend of mine, also part-time bartender at Orno Brewing Company, where I am the general manager as well. And so let's just talk. So Adam and I have been drinking beer for many, many, many years. Adam has been drinking longer than I have. Adam's worked in the beer industry. I work in the beer industry. So we decided to start this segment on the podcast about talking about beer and alcohol and different, spirits and things to move forward. We've only talked about beer mainly so far, but we were going to get into other things at some point. But Adam had made a decision that you'll learn about on this podcast episode. So this episode is about non-alcoholic beer and the rise of that over the past year or so. And it will be our last episode of what we have been entitling Hoppy Hour. So this is the last call. If you ever know a bar reference there. So this is the last episode of Hoppy Hour. It will be turning into something else in the future, which again, you'll also be learning about on this episode. But Adam joined us for this episode to talk some non-alcoholic beer, to do one final episode talking about beer and beverages before we move on to the next thing. So I really appreciate everybody. If you can like, subscribe, follow on Apple Podcast and Spotify. We're also on YouTube. You can subscribe to that page over there. And please like our Instagram or our Facebook page and give us a shout out. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please reach out to us. I'd love to hear from you guys. I get a couple of people email me a week, and it's pretty fun to hear from you guys. And I'd love to hear some more from you guys. So I really appreciate it again from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you guys listening. Adam and I is doing our last call episode of the Hoppy Hour, but Adam and I are also not going anywhere. I'll be back every week to do these episodes, as well as Adam will join me on an occasion as well. So this is Hoppy Hour, last call, talking about non-alcoholic drinks with Adam Morrisette of Dirigo Draft Services. Enjoy, everybody. What's up, Adam? How are you?
Not much. How's it going?
I'm good. It was actually turned out to be a nice day today.
A beautiful day. I know. I think I've moved rooms on you again.
We're trying that. Which every time it's a new thing. Every time Adam joins the podcast, I'm in a different spot.
I'm even on a different floor this time. I'm on the second floor. I know.
I debated when we had a doctor's appointment this morning, a checkup, our 33-week checkup, and I got back and we're like coming in the house, and I'm like, I'm recording another episode tonight for a future podcast as well. And I was like, if everything wasn't set up in the room to do podcasting, if it was like, this was the only one we're doing this week, and then I could wait till next week and get it all set up some other time in the week.
Exactly.
I literally debated about ripping everything down and going and sitting on the patio and like doing this outside. But I was like, I have an episode to record tonight and I'll have to bring that in. And then I looked and some clouds went by, and I'm like, for a fact, if I set all this up outside to do this podcast outside, it would start raining in the middle of recording this.
Right. Or somebody would like get a jackhammer out and start busting up the parking lot or something. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just not, let's just do it where I know it's controlled. I know I don't have to worry about the rain or the wind or anything like that. But in the future, I do want to do some of these. I mean, some of these microphones nowadays pick up your voice well enough and not the surrounding wind and all that stuff that I think it'd be badass to do when out like on a patio or like at the beer hut or a brewing company, like on a day off.
It'd be super. Well, I say it would be really fun is to do something like that live recorded, whatever. Yeah. But with people at the pub, like where you're at the bar and people can kind of like, hear what you're saying. Now that'd be kind of fun. Different energy.
Have like back when people can touch things and you don't have to worry about it as much. Have a set of headphones and a microphone that if someone comes by that you want to talk to, you'd be like, hey, swing over, recording a podcast. Have them sit down and just randomly have them record a segment on the podcast. Those are fun. I used to do those live when I did sports stuff. I used to go through Blog Talk Radio, and it was like a way you could stream it live on the internet through like just audio. Like obviously now there's Facebook Live and there's YouTube and all that stuff. Back 10 years ago, it was just, this was the only way to do it. And the guy who I was doing a live sports show opening up for UMass Lowell hockey. And the guy who ran the media relations asked me if I wanted to have speakers set up so people in the entryway to the arena could hear us speak. And I was frightened. I was like, no, No,
No, no,
I
no,
want this
no.
online only. I don't want to be able to hear my voice and have people standing in line hear me talking. I do not want that. No, I like doing these because I don't know who listens. They're not listening when I'm listening. So pre-recorded and not live is always more fun.
Every time Annie and I drive through Lowell, I always like, if I told you that Justin used to do sports broadcasting here, and every time she's like, yes, about 100 times you have told me that.
That's amazing because Taylor always gives me shit because of the fact that every time we go somewhere that I used to live or drive by, hey, did you know that I used to live here or my friend used to live here? So I'm glad you do that same thing.
Yep.
It's probably a over 30-year-old male thing to do anyway, is just talk about other people's things as you drive by things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So little background on this for anybody who hasn't listened to one of these episodes with Adam and myself. We started this like segment-ish thing. Adam came on, it's got to be close to a year ago now. It was May that I started doing this. So it was probably the beginning of June, maybe.
That sounds about right, because that's when I was still busy with the cidery stuff, and that June was the high point of that.
So I think that we've been doing them off and on. We started with just talking. You just joined me to talk about your line cleaning business.
Yep.
But then we moved on to saying, hey, we like talking. Adam and I are good friends, so let's just chat and talk about beer. We both have a passion for beer. So we started the Hoppy Hour segment where Adam came on. We talked Thanksgiving beers in the fall. We talked Christmas beers. We talked India Pale Ales. And then we changed it up. So we did talk on the last episode when Adam was on that we were going to talk about sour ales likely. But after discussion for Adam and I, it really so Adam came to put the lines in, or the taps in at OBC Orno in our hut to get ready for the summer. And we had a small discussion then. And then you came back a couple days later to clean the lines in the tasting room. And between that discussion, Adam had some input on some things in his personal life, and it made us talk. And so, I'll have Adam chat a little bit about it if he wants to, about what his on that. But just to let everybody know, this is the last quote unquote Hoppy Hour. I'm calling it Hoppy Hour. This is the last call Hoppy Hour. So we decided to go to a different route, and we're gonna go a different route right now. But if Adam if you want to chat about why maybe we changed to this route for this episode, if you share anything you want. Obviously, you don't have to share anything you don't want to, but share everything you want.
I'm pretty wide open. So
okay, cool.
We need to make an NFT to celebrate the end of Hoppy Hour. We'll be millionaires.
Who was it? I just saw someone online say that they would do that if they knew how. Like, there's so many times like I'd do that 100%, but if I knew how to do it.
Yeah. No, so what Justin's talking about, I just was like a lot of people stuck at home by myself for a year with the pandemic, and I just I'm 41, and so I was just kind of started thinking, man, I want to feel better. And I keep trying different things, like eating differently and exercising more, making sure I get outside and all of these things. And you do that for years. And during the pandemic though, I just had that moment where I was like, dude, you can do all of these things, man, but it's because you drink every day that you feel like garbage. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, I took a month and I just quit drinking, and I ate vegetarian the whole month. And that was kind of my reset. And I was just doing the month. And then I was about 3/4 of the way through, and Annie and I were sitting eating one night, and I was just like, so I don't think I can ever drink again, because I've never felt this good. And then we talked about it for a while, and I was like, because it's like you and I, we've worked in this industry for ages, so you kind of feel like maybe you're losing a bit of your identity because you're giving up this thing. And but finally, we talked about it, and I was like, man, I just feel so good. I want to strike while the iron's hot, and I just want to be done. But to segue perfectly into our podcast, I was like, literally that same day, I was like, but you know what, man? I was like, I love the thing that bums me out is I love the brewing industry. I love the people in Maine, especially, that I've worked with in the brewing industry, and I want to still hang out with them. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the store tonight. I'm going to get some NA beer, and I'm just going to keep trucking with NA beers like nothing has changed.
Yep.
And it was overnight, man. It was that was a great new routine. And now I might I might enjoy something else to relax in the evening while I have my NA beer, which I don't know why I'm being subtle. We live in Maine, so I might smoke some weed and have my NA beer. I'm just at that age cap where I always feel like I have to whisper in hushed tones that no. And so it's great. I have about one NA beer a day, and I love it. And talk about the perfect time to it literally while that was happening, all of a sudden NA beers were exploding
Yep.
everywhere. And so that leads us to today. So I'm
And,
drinking a Sam Adams Just the Haze.
and I've got the Syria. It's their Grain Wave, which is their Belgian style hops. So it's basically it's a Blue Moon.
Yep.
It's a non-alcoholic. I say it is by the guy, the founder, the guy who helped start the Blue Moon.
Yep.
Too, I guess that's what that guy from Craft said. But we were like, we talked about it, and we were like, well, we still could move forward. Like Adam does still have a huge passion for the industry. And what I always tell people every time I talk about me loving beer. It's always a weird thing when you say to someone, you say, I love beer, because there is alcohol in it. You immediately, to some people who aren't in the industry or don't like beer as much, they immediately, for some reason, go alcoholic. Like
Right.
not like alcoholic as in there's alcohol in it, like that you're an alcoholic because you love beer. Like if I said I loved weed, they'd be like, oh, you're a stoner.
Yeah.
And it's like, this, you can still love something and not have it be a problem per se. So, when we talked, we were like, hey, maybe we'll just let's continue doing the sour ale wine. We both, I mean, it's just recently you stopped drinking alcohol. So it's not like your knowledge is all of a sudden gone.
No, no.
And we'll say, let's try that. And we'll just keep doing that. And then I saw him a couple days later and I was like, you know what? Why don't we just go to a non-alcoholic episode and then wrap up Hoppy Hour and we'll move on to another option. So we're going to do a non-alcoholic episode here and talk about what some of the options there are out there and some of the cool new things and some of the reasons why people might choose to drink non-alcoholic. What I was thinking this morning was this isn't an episode to say you're wrong for drinking alcohol. This is also not a episode of thinking that you're right just because you don't. This is an episode to say there are other options out there, and there's no reason. Do what you want, do what you like. Overconsumption and overindulgence in anything is not good. So I just throw that out there. There's nothing out there that you can overindulge. Honestly, Adam, you and I should just be drinking water. Like that's what we should be drinking. But the idea that non-alcoholic options are out there for people was great. So we thought we'd do a non-alcoholic episode. There's non-alcoholic beer, which is what we know most about. There's non-alcoholic spirits now too, the vodkas and things like that. So there is some options out there. I don't know much about that stuff as much as we might know about beer. So this is more of a beer related episode. So there's multiple different options, but I will say it's also not your dad's non-alcoholic beer, if that makes any sense.
No.
Because many years ago, my dad drank O'Doul's, and that was the only one really. There was not many other options.
O'Doul's and Bush NA, man, they were it for like a long time.
So this isn't your dad's non-alcoholic beer, if I want to put it that way. There is so many good options out there, and Adam has been able to try a bunch. I've only recently been able to try a bunch. We've carried the Athletic Run Wild non-alcoholic IPA at OBC as an option for those people who would like to drink NA, and
which is really good.
The Syria. So why don't we talk about some of your favorites that have been out there so far? You mentioned the Sam Adams, but what's some good ones out there though?
Yep. Well, and I think that's the thing too, is it's like you just tapped on there's so many options now. It's like NA beer was just like the same beer flavored stuff across the board for a long time. So all these new things are fun because back to like we were saying before we even started the podcast of sometimes it's nice to remember that like the whole industry isn't about getting drunk. And so seeing what seems to be now a big growing interest in NA beer, that's just cool because that just means that there are people who love the product and the community even without the alcohol. So that being said, I have had a ton lately. And the range is from kind of some of the old standbys that have now gone to NA beers. And I guess I'll start there. One of the first ones I grabbed at the store was PBR NA. It's cheap. It is better than regular PBR for what it's worth. And I've drank a lot of regular PBR. So that's kind of my fridge is always stocked now beer with, it's got 50 calories or something, maybe 75 calories. So I think anybody that's just man, I just want an old school dad beer to drink while I'm mowing the lawn. An NA PBR, man, you can pound 6 of them while you're mowing the lawn, and even calorie wise, you're good to go. So I've been drinking that one a lot. I think the interesting thing you were talking about a little bit before too is the newest thing is they're always NA has always meant less than 0.5% alcohol by volume.
Yep.
which, while of course is like nothing, there still are people that really just want like no alcohol at all. And so that's like the new thing you're seeing. And that's the bigger breweries are the only ones that seem to be able to really do that process right now. The big ones are Heineken, Budweiser, and Guinness is getting ready to release their stout as a 0.0. So anybody listening to, that's the new thing you hear is like if somebody says, I'm looking for a 0.0 beer, they mean an NA beer with absolutely no alcohol. So that seems to be the only like really thing changing lately. But on the side of the non-0.0, man, some of the options now, I have the Sam Adams Just the Haze, and it's like, if you didn't tell me, I would just think it's a delicious like tropical hazy IPA. I mean, I would have no, but I was telling Justin a little bit ago when we were talking that that 0.5% of alcohol between 0.0 and what's still an NA beer, man, the for at least where it is right now, the taste profile is distinct. I mean, it's just the 0.0 ones taste to me like really well done beer flavored soda. And the ones that are like the 0.5, even though they're not, I mean, they're brewed with alcohol and the alcohol is removed, but that alcohol just brings a little bit of like, probably just more of mouthfeel that affects like the overall flavor. But so far I haven't found any of the 0.0s that would be like my top 5, but they're pretty good.
It's one of those things I will say whenever someone hands me a non-alcoholic beer, I mean, I'm a beer drinker. Like you and I have been drinking beer for years. We love craft beer. One of the things I always say to people when I mentioned, I say I love craft beer is all the science behind it, the history of it, the how it's made, the labels, the scene, the people that are in there, all that discussion is why I like craft beer. But when you go to drink a non-alcoholic beer, I will say, if you've been drinking beer for a number of years, and you're just deciding to switch in and throw some NA beer in there, there's something missing because alcohol has a flavor. And so when you take alcohol out of something that you're expecting the flavor profile has alcohol in it, yes, there is going to be that option that it has less in it. It's the same thing if you're used to drinking Sprite for your whole life and then you switch to seltzer water.
And the
there's
difference,
no sugar
like I said, it doesn't smack you in the face. It's not like, this is terrible, this is great. I mean, but it's like a bay leaf, right? Every time you put a bay leaf in something, you're like, there's no way that this stupid little leaf makes a difference. And then when you try to figure out the difference, you're like, I don't really know, but it's better with the bay leaf. Like, so yeah.
It's true. And that's you even said that 0.5% alcohol compared to the 0.0 beers. It's like there is a difference there. But I think the future of craft NA beer will accelerate to the point where I don't know if they add, if they add different additives to it or, with the different grain bills and all that stuff, making the beer actually have that more, not alcohol flavor, but the idea that there's so much going on in the beer. And maybe why I think this wheat beer is one of my favorites is because it's a wheat beer. So it has so much else going on in it. It's got coriander in it that makes you go, oh, wait, there is no alcohol in this. And this is pretty cool. Like it's obviously has a small amount of alcohol in it. But it allows you, like, it looks like a craft beer. It tastes like a craft beer. It has, it's in what I will think is funny though, is that they're all in 12-ounce cans, except for Well-Being. Well-Being comes in a 16-ounce can. I'm laughing at the fact that this has no alcohol in it and it's small. like it's not like you're worried about it. But I guess also if you made it 16 ounces, it wouldn't be 77 calories. So that helps with the sales tactic of it because it's low calorie too. But instead of run, what do you got there?
Well, this is the one. So I don't know if I would say there's, as I've been trying, any of the breweries that like really interest me right now. And I think goes back to what you said too with the craft beer community. And like, you'd go to NA beer and you were kind of like, meh. Well, like now craft breweries are on the job to make NA beer. And so we're starting to see that kind of looking for new technologies to do it. And so I think that's another thing that's fun with this is like, I think even if I went to OBC and you guys had PBRNA, I somehow feel like I'm still not part of the party because, so these newer breweries are doing some fun stuff. This one that I have, this is probably, like I said, I'm most interested in right now is Partake.
Yep. I think I've seen that can before. I don't know where I saw it. But...
Partake is Canadian.
Okay.
It is just water, barley, hops, and yeast, and hops. Of course, it's a pale ale. What's crazy is they have a process where their pale ale is 10 calories. It's insane. And it's water, barley, hops, and yeast are the only ingredients. It's 0.5% alcohol. It tastes like a delicious West Coast IPA. Like I said, there's a little bit, you can tell they're trying to work with how to offset flavors.
Yeah.
But I can drink 6 of these and it's 60 calories. Like, that's nuts.
Was it Surreal Brewing Company has a Natural Bridges Kolsch for only 17 calories. That's in Santa
That's
Cruz,
impressive
California.
too, though. Yeah, that's still impressive.
But I mean,
this one
back on the 0.5% thing you were talking about, how great you know it. You've been in the brewing industry for a while here and you've worked at bars. Most of us, like, unless it's like after a long shift, like if you work at a bar and you've worked 10-hour shift and it's been crazy as hell, you probably like with like liquor. A lot of those people are taking shots at the end of the night or mixed drinks or whatever. When you work at a brewery, like we work at or in a brewing company and stuff like that, and you get most of our kitchen staff, they're jumping for that double IPA because they get that shift drink, and I think they're trying to get the best bang for the buck in a sense.
Yeah, and for listeners too, like we don't have hard liquor either, so it's not even an option.
So, but the biggest thing to me is I think that if you ask most brewers across this country that what they want for a beer to drink on a regular basis is going to be your session IPAs. I mean, it's going to be that 2.5 to 3.5% alcohol. So most brewery people around this country want to drink low ABV things. So it's like, it's not just this thing, and they try to, and it's not that easy to make a good flavorful beer that matches your rest of your profiles with low ABV. So it's not like this is an unusual thing for someone to drink something that has the flavor. I've always told Taylor, if tubular tastes exactly the same without alcohol and with alcohol, I would drink it without alcohol too. It's not the alcohol that makes you want to drink beer. It's the craft behind it. Yeah, like I mentioned before, all the other stuff that goes into it.
And I think what's interesting, and we all know this, of course, in the brewing industry, is that same thing you're seeing with like terpenes and marijuana is like you can do incredible flavor things just with the flavors in hops, which what are they? Why can I not think of what they're called? The hop oils. It doesn't matter. My brain's not working today. But yeah, I mean, now you've got these ways of like making an NA beer, like for instance, that Sam I was just drinking, and you're not really going for balancing out the alcohol flavor anymore. So they can be really aggressive with like the Sam Adam ones taste like a pina colada kind of. I mean, it's just delicious. And so that's kind of fun to see. I think now they have options too to like add, more. They could add lupulin powder, they could add more hop oils, they could add whatever and boost up. But like this, I mean, this is the 10-calorie one.
Yeah, looks like a West Coast IPA.
I don't, and the head pours perfect. It's the only one I've gotten so far that the head is right on.
Yeah,
I don't know how
this was a very. It looked like after you put it in the glass, it did look like it's just orange juice in a glass because it didn't have that.
I mean, this one will like literally build up out of the glass.
That's
which
crazy.
Is, and I don't know how they do that for 10 calories. So partake when you listen to this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
We'd like to know how you do this black magic, please.
It's funny too, because all I can think about with you saying like how like some beers, like we just talked about the one I was just drinking and that one, how amazing it tastes like an actual real like 4%, 5% beer. It reminds me of that episode of Seinfeld where they had the non-fat yogurt or frozen yogurt, and they're, oh my god, this tastes so amazing. Come to find out there was fat in it. You can't call yourself a non-alcoholic beverage in the United States or in North America, really, and have more than 0.5% alcohol in it. It has to be tested. You have to actually have documentation that says this is what happens. Like when something's gluten-free, same thing. You have to have something in your files that say proving that is less than 0.5% alcohol. I will say in the United States as well, I don't know other countries, but in the United States as well, you do have to be 21 to drink a non-alcoholic beer that has under 0.5 but above 0.1. Not like honestly, I believe Heineken Zero, you don't have to be 21 because
I believe you
have
don't.
any zero.
And yet every place
I can buy it on Amazon.
But every place will still card you, just for any of you listening. So like, be prepared to argue, because I mean, I wasn't arguing me, but I forget where I got it one day and they carded me and I was like, that's actually zero alcohol. And they were like, well, it's a beer product, so we have to check your ID.
Yeah, they have it on. You can buy the six-pack of cans, 6 packs of 11.2 ounce fluid ounce cans of the alcohol-free 00 Heineken beer on Amazon for $22.
Which is good. The Heineken ones are nice.
The price is a little high because they have to ship it, but like,
of course,
that's that. So that is the cool factor, is that like it would be almost kind of cool for me to bring in to OBC something like Heineken Zero and have it so I can have the 18 to 21 year olds be able to drink beer.
Yeah, it's good. They can sit with their friends, and I mean, because it's the thing, right? I mean, it is zero alcohol.
And
I
it's a
mean,
social thing. It's not.
and it's exactly, and really like that's the kind of thing, as you know, a part of the community, like as a brewery, that you want to foster. I mean,
Yep.
you know, you want to say like, hey, dude, it's totally fine to hang out here and drink a 0.0 beer. Like, you don't have to drink it all if you want to hang out here. And OBC is, like I said, having worked a lot of different, like OBC does a really good job with that. I mean, you know, our crowd is not people coming in to get smashed and, you know, cause problems. I was, you know, out front there for 2 years and I never saw anything happen at
Nope.
OBC. Everybody's pretty chill. So
I did have a funny story I want to ask. So I said again, I don't want to make fun of people. Like I said, this is not a judgmental podcast at all because of the fact that I don't drink. Like I don't like to get smashed at all. Like I don't like it. Just never like the waking up, especially after you turn 30. The
yeah.
waking up the
Oh
next
God.
morning is never fun. It's just not fun. And so, especially if beer is not the only quote unquote bad thing that you do in your life. If you eat cheeseburgers and bacon and all this other shit, like the beer is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That when you wake up the next morning, you feel like crap. So
Oh God, yeah.
the sedimentary lifestyles, all that stuff, so playing video games and watching TV, beer is just part of that problem that we have. But I don't know where I was going with this now, but it's this change it up, do something different. Have
Yep.
like I said, like I was telling Adam before we started pressing record on this podcast, is that like I will still be drinking beer. I don't drink that much. I drink, you know, like I had a can or two on Tuesday of last week, and I probably had a shift pint on Saturday night, and I had one last night after I finished when I was talking to Justin Quayle from Bissell Brothers Milo.
Yep.
And so it was 4 beers in a week. And that's typical for me. I used to, when I first started owning a brewing company, if I was working on the schedule, I'd pour myself a 12 ounce to do that. You know, as life progressed and so on, and Taylor doesn't drink right now because she's pregnant. But I said this summer, there's going to be me buying 4 packs of tubular and me buying a 6-pack of 12-ounce non-alcoholic beers.
Exactly.
So that way I can like have a tubular and then throw a non-alcoholic in my system and then go back and forth so that I can have a day's worth of drinking on the boat, but only have 4 beers in 8 total beers, but only 4 of them actually had more than 0.5% alcohol in it. So that's what I'm looking forward to this summer, is that aspect of it. Like the fact that there is quality beverages out there that are non-alcoholic that I can actually enjoy and not skip a beat, if that makes any sense.
Right. And I think we're pretty clearly like, I mean, there was some burgeoning interest already in NA. And I think clearly like this is a pandemic effect. I think a lot of people were probably like me. They were like, they spent 1 year alone with themselves and they were like, you are a miserable bastard and you need to do something. And so they, you know, I think a lot of people have identified maybe that starting drinking at 8 a.m. during the pandemic wasn't the best idea, which for the record, I never did. But I know a lot of people, friends and family that I talk to that are like, oh my God, I just realized the other day I popped a beer at like 9 a.m. You know,
and a lot of times it's not because they're trying to do it at 9 o'clock in the morning.
No, not at
forget
all.
what time it is.
Well, forget what time it is. And like, I think we all know this past year, you've had those moments where you're like, it's just anything different, anything. Like,
and so I'm excited to do that. But there also, like we talked about, beer is one thing. We do live in the great state of Maine, so marijuana is recreational legal for over 21. So there's that option for people if they want to calm down and relax and use that as a helpful thing to your life. No judgment there at all. And then, but there also is non-alcoholic spirits, like I mentioned earlier. I am not a big cocktail drinker. I never have been. My goal this summer was to try some here and there, because there also would be, if I can do like a vodka tonic or something along those lines, it also has less calories in it, less filling. So my goal for the summer was also just to feel better when I was drinking. So like the idea that if I can switch it to maybe like a spirits-based drink, double IPAs and IPAs are filling. And so that aspect of it was fun for me. So I might get into that non-alcoholic spirits, but I just never got it. Like to me, it was kind of weird that someone would buy tequila
and I
for really expensive to make a drink.
And I see where that space is hard, because I mean, maybe if you could make like a non-alcoholic, like scotch or whiskey, like for me personally, like just me personally, liquor's pretty much, I don't care what it tastes like. Like at the point that I've moved to hard liquor, you could mainline it and that would be fine with me. So the mixed drinks are one that, I mean, I still think if it's something people enjoy and it makes them healthier, absolutely jump on board. But just myself personally, like I usually will get like a cup of tonic water with like a lime and a cranberry juice at a bar if I don't, because like you said, you can say whatever. It is more fun to hang out at a bar, at least even looking like you're drinking, you know?
Yes.
It's never fun to be
Yes.
walking around like the bumping bar on a Friday night with a Diet Coke can in your hand. Like, look at that nerd, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And I just never got it because, like, to me, it was like if you're not gonna put alcohol in your cocktail, why wouldn't you just make a virgin cocktail?
Right.
Like that was my whole thought process and the whole thing. Like, there a virgin margarita is still good.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's still
Exactly.
delicious. So you don't actually have to put the alcohol in it to make it good. So that's weird to me. Beer is made with alcohol. Like you cannot
Right.
like you can't make beer taste like we make beer at the OBC without putting alcohol in it. You can remove it like we talked about it, but like
That
it's
one.
not a thing. It's not like you can do
No,
it with, you can not like make a mixed drink
no,
without it. It's just
it's
weird.
it's the process of fermentation that
Yes.
that makes the magic happen. Oh, and way back, clarify a comment. You're not a nerd if you're walking around in a bar with a Diet Coke. I'm just saying there's all the jerks in the bar that I want to.
Yes.
You're not a nerd if you're walking around the bar with a Diet Coke.
You
I was
might
just saying.
be, but that's just because you might be a
You
nerd
might
in the
be, but
first
not because
place.
of the Diet Coke, just
Yes.
because like, it's you.
I'm a nerd walking around a bar with a
I
beer
am.
can. So
Exactly.
like
The Diet Coke is irrelevant. Like I'm a nerd sitting here right now.
but
So
we mentioned the weed aspect of it too, and it's becoming more of a social norm. And we used to be able to like, hey, don't speak on that on the air about that. Like that's just,
yeah.
like going now that's recreational legal in the state of Maine and many other states across the country. It's medically in other states in the country. I don't want to go on a huge weed topic because we
No.
talked about maybe that's something we talk about in the future, but there is THC infused. So the company that's this Sierra or
Yep.
Syria brewing company makes in Colorado where they're from. Again, not most, all THC infused beverages cannot cross state lines because of the federal regulations on THC and marijuana in the country. But if you're in the state, like for an example, Shipyard in Maine
Yep.
makes a THC infused beverage that is sold at dispensaries across the state now. That just can't, it has to stay in Maine. You can't sell it across state
Right.
line borders. So there's that option too. So if you're still looking to have that drink in your hand
Yep.
and have a buzz from it in some sort of fashion, those are always cool
I
options.
I
It's
really think that the THC infused NA beer is, I think that's what we're building towards. I don't think the big breweries' interest in NA beer is just because everybody wants NA beer. They
yep,
know that if they're going to sell that, it needs to be 0.0 because they don't want to be mixing the alcohol and the
yep.
THC, or then regulators are going to be like, oh, I don't know about that. So,
Because as of
look
right
for
now,
look
you can't in any state mix alcohol and THC.
look for your Heine Green in cans
Yes,
next
I can't
year.
wait. Yeah. And that's the thing. So Woodland Farms is the only brewery in the state of Maine right now that's made an NA beer. They're bound in Kittery. That's a craft beer place in Maine. But
What are
also,
they
like I
called
said,
again? How do I not know that one?
Woodland
What are
Farms.
they?
Woodland Farms. They're down in Kittery Point or Kittery, right by the shopping area there. They're right there next to Weather Vane and all that stuff.
So
They're
you know
down
more
the.
than I do. There we go.
Well, I grew up in Kittery, so. But they have a brewery that's like right across the street from the trading post they have down there in Kittery, and they just released a less than 0.5% alcohol
That's awesome.
IPA recently too. So they're the only
Right.
one so far that I know of that have made that. Shipyard's the only one in the state of Maine, I believe, has a THC infused drink that's from Maine. And then there's in Vermont, I know that like Long Trail, I believe, did a THC infused drink
Oh,
for a
nice.
while there. And then like in Colorado, there's a couple. So there are the
Yeah.
options out there for THC. But one of the cool things I've been getting into recently is the Weller. It's one brand that I like, Tangerine CBD seltzer water, sparkling water. That's for those people who don't want the buzz at all, but you want something fun, something different than just a regular seltzer water.
Yeah. That still
This is
could
not
take
a
the edge off a little bit, at least
yes,
for.
it will help you with the CBD. It's a very, very good thing for you. But it's another one. You have to be 21 to buy this in the state of Maine because of the laws on CBD. But this is a cool beverage. I drink probably one of these a day now. It's 25 milligrams of CBD per serving, and
They're
awesome.
delicious.
They're delicious.
I finally tried one the other day. It literally tastes like a tangerine. Like,
yes, it's so good. So there are other flavors, and this is not an advertisement, obviously, for Weller. But there are other flavors. There's like black cherry, I believe, watermelon or something like that. The tangerine is by far my favorite. I think the other ones are kind of tangerine is one of those flavors that I feel like you could have a hint of it, like lemon. You hint of tangerine, hint of lemon, hint of lime, and it's fine. think it's like watermelon and black cherry to me. Like if you taste, it's just a hint of that. It's like, it feels like it's watered down
Yeah.
version of it.
Yeah. I went full on with watermelon,
Yes, exactly. Or strawberry or things like that. It's just a hint. It's not
which is
good.
another, I'm going to have to like contact them directly, but I'm going to need 21st Amendment to make an NA Hell or High watermelon for the
Yes.
summer.
They
So,
should. All these places, why wouldn't you if you could perfect it and you have the time and the space?
well, just think too that Hell or High watermelon, like it's
Yeah.
all about that funky watermelon flavor in it, anyways. Um,
We talked
so
about
yeah,
this briefly off air, but like when we talked this past week was do you know of anybody making sour? Like sour NA beers, or is that just not
I don't, and my gut would be that the kombucha market probably has that kind of cornered already. And so for the NA market, that seems kind of like you're just making something else, even though it wouldn't be like that.
correct?
But I'm wondering if that's where like the wall they're hitting is with, but yeah, I don't know about NA sours. I would imagine they'd be,
It wouldn't be
it
like
looks like there are. Yeah.
there's
Here's a
stouts for
not,
sure.
here's
We've
an
been
NA,
talking.
like here's an NA Berliner Weiss.
Oh, there you go. I'll drink that.
Um, yeah, no, I mean that, I mean, honestly, I think NA sours for NAs is fantastic because that sour fruity flavor really
Yep.
just takes over anyways. So, but like I said, I wonder if that's just because kombucha is already there for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
So there's yeah. So in the end, the moral of this whole conversation about NA beers, first of all, um, badass for someone like yourself, Adam, thinking about the bigger picture. And it is hard. Like I said, if you were working at a bank, it wouldn't even cross your mind to think of a
Yep.
discussion to have like, okay, I'm just not gonna stop drinking beer. It's fine. I'm just not gonna do it anymore. But again, I think there's an extra level of thought process that goes into it when you work in the industry. Like
Yeah, it
this is
is.
the industry I work on, and this is the thing where it's like Adam, and I won't speak for you, but if I tomorrow decided to give up drinking alcohol, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to like take a sip of the tubular to make sure it's tasting
Of
okay
course not.
or that kind of thing. It's not like I'm
Of course not.
allergic to it. It's just that aspect of I'm not going to choose to drink it as
Yep.
my social drink of choice. If I decided to give up drinking alcohol tomorrow,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Well,
would
and
be more
like
on
you
the, yeah,
said, I mean, looking for takeaways from it. I mean, I think it's just if I was going to throw one out, it would just be. I'm sure there are. I mean, I've been in the bar brewery industry for 15 to 20 years now, and um, it's just a reality. A lot of people that work in the industry drink more than they should. And I'm not saying they're alcoholics at all, but when you're around it all the time and that's the culture you're in. And so it's weird not to drink.
Mhm.
So I would just, my thing is like for anybody, customers or staff or at breweries or whatever, like, you know, I think if you try just still being able to be at a brewery without drinking, you'll find it's like you said, nobody actually really cares if you're
No,
drinking. You think they are. They don't though. And
correct.
so if you want to hang out at breweries, man, just grab an NA beer. They're everywhere now.
And we have,
I
like I
mean,
said, not to promote Orno Brewing Company forever, but like Orno Brewing Company in Bangor, or sorry, Orno has two options right now. We have a wheat beer
yep.
and we have a IPA from Run Wild. So it's definitely an option for you here. We'll probably
Yeah.
add more options in the future. We have we sell the Weller CBD drink. If you're interested in something like that, if you go there, and we're looking at, we don't know for sure yet. It's not, don't take me to the bank on this, but we're looking at when we open Bangor is upgrading our license to a tavern license, which
Yeah.
will allow us to carry other people's beer, wine, and cider.
Yeah.
And
It
in that
makes a lot of
addition
sense.
will
Yep.
allow us to carry. I could bring in a can of a non-alcoholic beer and be
Sure.
able to have it as an option for people who want to come to a tasting room, sit
No,
down.
and it is. And it's like, I guess it's nice. Like, I mean, that's my thing. Like I won't, clearly I'm friends with all you guys, but ignoring that, like I won't come to OBC any less than I used to because I'll still come in and grab dinner and have an NA beer and hang out and see everybody. And so that I think that's the biggest takeaway is just like, man, if you like the alcoholic beer, that's awesome. That's not what this is about. But at the same time, if you're in that place where you're like, man, I think I'd feel better if I didn't drink, but I really still want to hang out at OBC because it's, I love breweries, then like just switch over to NA beer. I promise you from the staff side, brewery side, we don't judge you like at all. Never once have I gone home and been like that John and his NA beer. Like,
We're more likely to judge you
because you're drinking the alcoholic beer, because you're drunk and being a Yahoo. Yeah.
or you're
You're,
just
if you're
annoying in
drinking,
the first
honestly, if you're
place.
drinking the NA beer, you're a known quantity. We're like, oh
Yeah.
God, John is here. Get him his NA beer now.
Yeah.
Like,
And hell, the option would be is that it still has alcohol on it, but you could drink a few NA beers and be a DD for the night too. So even if it's not a choice to do for the rest of your life, it
exactly.
could be that night. It's your friend's birthday, but you want to enjoy the time. You grab a couple of NA beers, and the three NA beers will be 1.5%
Yeah.
alcohol in a sense. That's not gonna. It's
Yeah.
not
And I
gonna
think
make you
the big
impaired.
thing you've hit on a couple times too, which is like, or just like roll the NA beer into the rotation. So
Mm-hmm.
like go to OBC, have a tubular, and then while you're hanging out, chilling with your friends for a bit, just resting, relaxing, switch over to an NA. And by the time you're done and ready to go, you're not crazy buzzed but you weren't sitting there like the only person doing this while everybody's drinking beer.
And I think
So
restaurants and bars that have it, going out for lunch with your friends on a lunch break in the middle of the day, you can grab an NA beer and it wouldn't affect the rest of your work day. It's like
exactly,
there's a bunch
exactly.
of huge benefits to the fact that it's not just quitting drinking alcohol. It's the reason why you need to drink NA beers. There's way more options
Tons
and
of
way more
reasons.
options.
Yep.
Yes. So that's pretty cool. So the moral of the story is that they're getting to the point where you can drink an NA beer and not suffer as much as you used to on
But yet you can
flavor,
actually enjoy
taste.
it. You can actually have a brewery that you enjoy.
Yep.
Like,
And so
so
you're not just like, I'll have to go duels or a water. Like it's just there's an option for you out
yep.
there. And they're just there. And I wouldn't be able to go and talk to Adam and be like, these are your options out there. We gave you a few ones that we've been drinking. Excuse me, but there's so many so
Oh
fast, so
god.
quick. I'm even learning every day about new ones that are coming out. So
Oh yeah.
it's there's no list for you. Look online. I just Googled top 10 or top non-alcoholic beers in the country, and a bunch of them came up. So you just
I will tell you, if anybody though that were like listening is thinking, that's all great, dude, but I like stouts. So stouts are not as far along, at least in my experience, as the other ones. But I will tell you, um, so Guinness released a 0.0 that when it got people were originally reviewing it. This is about a year or so ago.
mm-hmm.
People were like, yeah, honestly, I can't tell it's not Guinness because Guinness is already a pretty low ABV beer.
Mm-hmm.
But they had some kind of quality control issue. There was actually nothing wrong, but it didn't meet their internal standards, and so they recalled it. Also, I think in the next 2 months they're supposed to re-release Guinness. And then if you're looking right now for one, the only really good one I've had is BrewDog. It's called Wake Up Call. It's a coffee caffeinated stout. So not only does it not get you drunk midday, it has the same amount as a cup of coffee. So you can drink a beer and get buzzed up on caffeine.
So which is great because I mean that's always when someone asked me the other day why we don't carry a Red Bull, and then Cassie said something. I'm like, I wonder if Fruitful and Red Bull would be good together, and I'm like, it probably would be, but I don't want to do it. I've been
Yeah.
at bars where you serve a Red Bull infused drink, and you don't want to give someone caffeine and alcohol. It's just not a good combination.
The bar I worked at in Illinois, man, that bombs was all anybody drank on the weekend. I mean, if you could mix Red Bull with it, like we had mixed Red Bull with it.
And so I was like, it might be good. Have someone do it on their house, and if it likes good, I'm not buying Red Bull. First of all, Red Bull is a pain in the ass to buy for a restaurant or bar because they're distributed by themselves. But I just no. So, but caffeine in a beer that doesn't have alcohol in it, that's a different.
That's
story.
because all Red Bull's got left is the exclusivity of Red Bull. I mean, although it is damn good in a shot when you're really hammered already.
I guarantee you, I just don't want to deal with that in College Town. Like that's me.
God.
I just personally like, I love having fun, man. To each his own. You're young, you're spry, go out and have fun. But
Red Bull and Crown Royal vomit is not a pleasurable experience.
Like vomit in the first place is a pleasurable experience.
Throw a little peanuts in for good measure.
Oh, yum.
Because you know my story where I was coming up from the stocking the basement at Spar I used to work at, and a guy at the top of the stairs threw up an entire pitcher of PBR and about a pound of peanuts all over me. And was like, oh man, sorry, bro.
Adam's favorite recipe or meal now is peanuts and PBR. So because of that night.
It's taken me a while. I just come back around to PBR with the NA now.
I mean, that's to me is always the discussion I always have, and is PBR would be my cheap beer of choice. Like if you're going out on the boat and you want to buy 12-ounce cans and that's all you want, and so on, I
Yep.
PBR is my go-to. And then so now I
And
might be able to buy PBR that and PBR non-alcoholic and mix it in.
the thing I love with PBR, so again, you've heard all these stories before. It was the bar I used to work at was the top 3 selling PBR bar by volume in the country. So, which is in and of
It's
itself
insane.
not normal. Yeah. But Pabst knows their, so this is the Pabst NA, right?
Yeah.
The only place they put NA on the entire can is where you naturally hold a PBR. So you like nobody knows that you've got the PBR NA. It just looks like a PBR. And I was like, that's a brand knowing its audience there.
Exactly.
Like our drinkers don't want anybody to know they're drinking an NA beer. Like
you're already not drinking a craft beer. You're drinking something cheap, but now you're also drinking something cheap that doesn't have alcohol in it.
yeah.
Interesting.
Potential.
Well, I will
I'm
say
getting
that is that non-alcoholic beer is not also that much cheaper. I
No.
will say that aspect of it because there is
No.
the science behind it. It takes more time. There's all that stuff you have to do. Like I said, the testing of it. When Owner Brewing Company releases a beer like tubular 7.2%, we have a variance allowed in the state, which is like I think it's like 0.2% on either side of that, so it can be up to 7.4 or down to 7%. But you know, there's science behind it that if you do this, that, the other thing, and if your levels are this, it's gonna come out on this ABV. Whereas something like that, like I said, to call yourself a non-alcoholic beer, there is these testings that go into it, and those cost money, and the equipment costs money, and all that stuff. So that's why it wouldn't charge anything less, really. I do know that like this is a little bit cheaper to buy, probably than a craft beer right now.
Say the one thing I've found with NA beer is I agree with you 100%. And in some cases, I would say it's actually more expensive than the regular beer. But I rarely want a second NA beer, which in a sitting, which is, you know, at least I'm not crushing a 6-pack. I'm not saying not to crush a 6-pack, but it's funny. I have noticed that with the, you know, now that I'm not drinking to keep the buzz going, like 1 or 2 beers, and I'm like, that is a reasonable amount of beer. Of course, now then I judge past self who thought that 14 pints of beer was a reasonable amount of beer. Like totally reasonable. I remember like being like, you know, you've done this probably back in the day when you were still partying, where like you reach the end of the day and you're like, I have had 12 pints of high octane beer, but it's okay because I didn't have potato chips at lunch, so that balances out.
Yeah.
And
or I didn't have 14.
Right. Yeah.
I was only 12. It wasn't 14.
Yeah, it was only 12.
Like, wait, what?
No, I didn't. Yeah, nope. I poured the 14th one out halfway through.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. It was justifying it too. So, so that's our little nutshell about non-alcoholic beer. That it's coming. It's going places. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's actually increasing in volume. It's cool if you choose to just quit drinking alcohol. I respected everything when Adam and I had a conversation. I was like, good for you, man. Thinking about your health, thinking about your future. This is awesome. I said, you know, to me, as like, I've scaled back on alcohol too. This is not something I drink every day anymore. And then I mentioned that I was like, now that I've had some really good ones, that I'm going to supplement that in there. I changed the lifestyle of it. I'm also having a child, so I obviously don't want to be drunk every night. And also then I can teach that in the future and instilling that in my child's thing about properly drinking and so on. And always, like I said, the calories is a lot of it too. Like, I mean, a double IPA doesn't have 77 calories. So,
and that's why I'm willing to, when I was showing you that one, put up with that little bit of taste difference with partake. Because for 10 calories, my God, like I don't even have to think about it.
But 10 calories is like, there's nothing with 10 calories in it. Like, what do you eat? What do you eat that has 10 calories in it?
Celery. Yeah.
It's insane.
Dude, just one quick aside while we're talking about the drinking thing, but just anybody that's wondering, I do still do line cleanings and line installations.
Yes.
They don't care what's in them. They work the same way no matter what. So yeah.
And you won't be hungover the next day going into a bar to clean a line.
So anybody listening, I'm no longer drinking alcoholic beer, but I still know how to get alcoholic beer into your glass. So if you need your lines cleaned or fixed,
and we talked about this. Adam's not going to stop looking at beer articles online. He's not going to.
It's still the majority of what I look at.
But we thought we discussed that some of the best conversations that Adam and I have ever had don't surround beer, because beer is our lives. Like, I work at a brewery full time. Adam cleans lines. He's also works at breweries. He's worked at bars and restaurants. He home brews. All of that is beer. So when we realized that, yes, the best thing for, obviously, the initial thought process for us to talk about is beer, because we we know it and we can talk about it. Then we realized, we stepped back after having conversations last week, that really some of the best conversations we've ever
Yeah.
had when Adam was either him and I were working together on a shift, or he's cleaning lines, or we're just talking and having a drink together. Other times is other things, other
Yeah.
passions we have, other subjects, Star Wars or comic books, or anything out there.
Well, I was
everything
going to
out
say,
there.
if everybody remembers, probably the most enlivened discussion we ever had on our Hoppy Hour was actually about Star Wars, because, which I guess is not little known if you heard that one, but Justin and I are both huge Star Wars nerds.
Fans.
We're both Marvel nerds too. Justin's way more knowledge, but on Star Wars, man, Star Wars, I can go toe to toe. So.
So excited. So we said that, well, we don't want to stop talking, and Adam's a great guest, and I don't want to stop having him on there. But I just feel like there loses some when you're cleaning lines is one thing. That's a job that needs to be done. You know how to do it. You're not actually drinking beer when you're cleaning lines. So you don't have to drink beer. You could know nothing about beer and still clean lines, because it's about the science behind cleaning the lines, not the actual beer. But talking about beer and being invested in beer and being like, this is a new beer out there and you're not drinking it, it does lose some sort of, not credibility, but like it wouldn't go anywhere. So we thought, let's just retire the Hoppy Hour segment. It would get to a point, I think, that it would be a point where we'd run out of things that I try to tiptoe around the whole connection to Orono Brewing Company thing. And I think we'd get to a point where we just would run out of things to talk about that wouldn't be crapping on another brewery or a style or whatever it may be. And I would just focus on maybe some of these beer episodes, and maybe Adam can come on to some of these beer episodes that I have an actual beer guest on.
Yes.
And be a second, we could do a three person one.
We can still do our downtown Bangor broadcast.
Yes, which we want to do eventually. Yes.
Yeah.
But then we could talk about other things. So I thought Adam and I I would love to be regular scheduled thing like this thing, but more of like we're going to call like a wild card episode, where it's basically like Adam comes on as a guest, not a guest, but a co-host. We're doing a podcast together as, let's talk about the Mandalorian. Let's talk about this.
Or like, I was like, you were laughing at the beginning of the podcast. We were joking. I was thinking like, we could just do a whole stupid thing on like NFTs.
Yes.
And not from the perspective of the, like, I don't know what you're talking about. The perspective of where we're like, we don't really know what we're talking about either. But like,
it could be, I did buy some stocks for the first time this year. So you can talk about that whole craze of the GameStop stocks and all that stuff. We could just talk about, Adam and I will check in the week prior and we'll talk about maybe some things that are in the news. It might not be an entire episode on Star Wars. It may be an episode where we talk about Star Wars and it goes into NFTs and it goes into something else. And then it goes on and it's an hour and a half podcast of us shooting the shit about things in the world, but we both being passionate about it. We both have some information to bring to the table, and it will just be a good discussion, which what a good podcast is. It's just a good discussion. So
I love it.
So I'm excited. So we're not going anywhere. Adam's not going anywhere. The podcast is not going anywhere. We'll talk about the idea whether or not it's gonna be like on the same schedule we were at now. We also may just be like, hey, we have nothing to talk about this week. This week, let's not do it. And that was the problem. Also,
we might do something just goofy every once in a while, unplanned. That I still want to heat up that poker and stick it in the NA beers and see what happens, like that kind of thing. So yeah,
we talked about doing an episode and getting someone like our friend Brooks on, who runs a medical marijuana growing facility.
I would love that.
Talk some weed. We talked about cooking with marijuana. We talked about just a couple of different things we could do and have it be a wild card. Like, this is the episodes we're actually going to do some fun things. Maybe Adam and I traveled somewhere to do the podcast in a random ass location. And it's just about the experience of doing that. It's, non-traditional. Maybe it's only video because we go do something like the poker thing.
I was about to say, we can just go check out some of weird Maine.
And so we're going to work on this. It'll be fun. So it's not going anywhere, but this is the actual last episode for now of Hoppy Hour, which is completely fine with both of us. We're not sad. We're moving on. We're going to have some fun with the future episodes. And then I will have beer related episodes with beer related guests, if that makes any sense. So if I have someone from an actual brewery come on and talk discussion about beer, that makes a little bit more sense than you and I trying to discuss beer and trying to keep the conversation going. When, like I said, a lot of times the reason why it stalls out sometimes is because we've already had these discussions, and it's like, well, it's kind of hard to redo this discussion when we've already had this discussion off air at different times.
Well, and it's just, I think you probably felt this. It's like you do it too, and you realize, like, man, like I talk about this all the time. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, I mean, I love talking about it, but I just like you said, you and I mean, Justin and I were. God, I mean, you hired me 2.5 years ago, almost
2.5 years ago,
And so I think the other thing too is like Justin and I have worked together for a long time, but like I'm scaling back a bit out of OBC with not the same position or hours I used to have. So I think the other thing too is like Justin and I have got to be like actual friends outside of work now more than we are even. I would say honestly, the OBC connection isn't that much of it anymore.
It's not anyway. I just see you there because you're cleaning lines, and that's
exactly.
when we see each other. And because of COVID, so, obviously, it's been that was the main reason why the only time I see you.
Right.
But Adam, like we talked the other week, and I'm like, Adam's got his first shot, and this is actually coming. We're recording this actually a week and a half prior to when it actually releases. Usually I record Monday for Wednesday, but Adam and I discussed Adam's getting his second shot on Saturday. And so we talked that like it, hopefully everything's fine. And what I've heard, a lot of older people in their 30s and 40s actually get less of a reaction to the second shot as someone who's a little younger.
I've heard that
hopefully
too.
We'll be fine. And Asa got his, and Heather and Abe, and they were all fine after their second shot. But just to make sure that Adam on Saturday night gets a second shot, that he's not under the weather on Monday, I wouldn't want a podcast where Adam's like,
oh god.
So we're recording this a little ahead of time this time. But we had talked about, once we get our shots and stuff like that, it's summertime. We'll be able to hang out and, and Annie, your wife, and my wife, and a bunch of people. So we're pretty excited. And like I said, I wanted to do this outside, like I mentioned to Adam before we started recording. And the skies got a little cloudy and a little overcast, and I was afraid I was going to set everything up and it would start raining. But that would be pretty badass too, for us just to sit out on a patio somewhere at your house, my house, with all the equipment, and just record a podcast outside and just enjoy the fire crackling in the background. And
I agree. Yeah.
It's a main podcast should be done outside sometimes.
And absolutely. I agree.
And so, and then we'll have, there's some new things coming out. Marvel movies will be coming out soon. So maybe we can do some like not even part of the segment, a half an hour, 15-minute segment of just like initial reactions to Black
Widow.
And
there's more Star Wars coming out than I've ever imagined in my life. I mean, so that we got a lot we can talk about. And then we can just do weird stuff like heat up metal and drop it in beer and see what happens. I mean, that's perfect.
We'll drop Mentos in some Coca-Cola.
Hell, it will drop Mentos in beer and see what happens. I'm assuming it probably doesn't work.
It'll be a mint flavored beer.
Nothing. It's just a gross beer at that point. Yeah.
I mean, it'll be fun. So it'll be exciting. I'm excited for it. I'm always like the next step in the evolution of what we do on this podcast in general has always been one of those things that I like. And I think that I do a lot of long format stuff too. So it would be kind of cool if you were my like, co-host for some of these short segment things too. Like I said, when we both watched The Mandalorian, we text each other after WandaVision. There was a bunch of conversations back and forth with us, but it'd be kind of cool. Like, Friday night Mandalorian season finale came out, and like Saturday afternoon, you and I got on here for 15 minutes and we just did initial reactions of the season, spoiler alerts, and do that. And that could be a small little bonus podcast too. So Adam's not going anywhere. I'm excited for this because I think it's gonna be more fun than ever.
I'm really not going anywhere in any way that anyone would ever notice. Like, I mean, it's just that I'm drinking like NA beer now. That's literally all that's changed. Like, and I feel
have a beard.
So I probably won't be as grumpy of a bastard as I have been at times in the past.
You'll just be a bastard this time, not grumpy.
Just be a bastard now.
But awesome. So NA beers are in the love of our hearts now because they're actually getting better. I'm happy to drink them. I'm happy to carry them. That was one of the things when I first started carrying athletics at OBC. I was afraid because I'm afraid to carry something that doesn't live up to the standards, and it has. They're nothing against Athletic. They're not my favorite on the market, but they are up there with you're still going to get the quality. It tastes like a West Coast IPA.
Think
it's great.
Athletic really shines on their New England style IPAs. They're still working on the other ones a bit.
But this is like this. It's good. So it's and they're great. I will say they're a great brand as a stand by their product. So I don't know if you remember that time this past summer where I got a case.
I do. Yep.
And the case was off, and nothing against them because it happens to everybody. This is not an unusual thing. It's happened to the best of the best.
It's happened to every brand you've ever drank. Yep.
And I texted the guy, the sales rep from Maine, and I said, "Hey man, and they got us a new case, no cost." He said, "Dump the other one. We're fine. We understand. Here's what it is." So they stand by their product. They were sorry, apologetic, and every can that I've had since then, I've been happy with. So that's a great thing to do too. So
and I think they're one of those companies, like you say, it looks to me to like they're always improving, which is key. Yeah. Like I don't mind drinking it and thinking that it could be improved as long as it's being improved. So
yes, exactly. So And you can get it. I think Mark carries it at Woodman's too. So when Woodman's opens
Cool.
back up, he has non-alcoholic beers. I mean, most places nowadays are
Yeah.
carrying something. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the Gagans of the world carry O'Doul's still, but I think that's a main D
And we'll
connection
see
there. Yeah.
eventually. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but if this continues to grow, I imagine eventually, not a lot, but we'll see the occasional NA beer on tap at places. I think that's going to be much more specialty. I think you're going to start seeing NA brew pubs pop up
Yep.
eventually.
Tasting rooms
That's
like the, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's going to be where you really kind of first see that NA beer being on tap. But I'm looking forward to that because
And the last thing I will say on my side of the how good they've gotten is it used to be you had one option. You go to a place and this is the
oh,
non-alcoholic
duels.
beer they had option. Now it's like if you decide to drop drinking alcohol, or maybe you don't want just have never liked drinking alcohol, and you have options now where there
Yeah,
was never a time really where there's
yeah.
options.
And
It's just good. It's good.
yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning. It's just I think it's just that part of brewing isn't just like being into that culture isn't just swilling beer. It's that you like the way you can play with flavors and sugars and get and I think now seeing that in NA is going to make a lot more people feel like they can be a part of it still. Especially there's going to be a lot of old guys like me after the pandemic that probably are like, man, I got to cut back on my drinking and so just rotate some NA beer into the mix, and there you go.
Yeah, and I know some people who have gone sober and they still, I mean, technically
Yep.
sober. If you drink NA beer, technically,
Technically, yeah,
it's but if you're doing it for a choice, not because of a the court order, then having that 0.5% alcohol or less is still considered in my book that you're
yeah,
working towards a better life. That's cool.
exactly. Oh,
But if
and like
anybody
I said, it's not
listening
a
knows any good, cool,
yeah. No, and
new any
it's
stuff,
not a
tell us.
judgment. Like you said, it's not a judgment thing at all, man.
Correct.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, I am what the kids these days are calling California sober, anyways. So, like that, I'm not. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not the issue. The issue is that the amount of alcohol I was drinking was
Was
not good for me.
good for your body and for your in your mind, and we talked about it as anxiety and depression also come with alcohol. So I
Yeah,
went through some
that's
big
been the
points in
yeah.
2020 with anxiety and depression during certain moments
Oh,
where I stopped
that's
drinking coffee.
yeah. Oh,
Like I
I mean,
wasn't
that's
drinking
something
alcohol or
I'll
coffee.
yeah,
It's
I'm fine being wide open about, as we've talked about. Like
yeah.
I have terrible anxiety. I have for years, and I've managed it. I've tried prescriptions. I've tried just lifestyle changes and stopping drinking. Like literally within a week, I was like, huh, huh.
This is how
I'm
it's
not
like.
really.
What's like?
I mean, I still have anxiety, right? I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't magically go away, but I don't lose the ability to function at
Yes.
all anymore. So again, it's just one of those. I mean, it's not a judgment. It's just, but if you feel like crap, maybe try it.
Yep. And so in this, what I'd love to do is our segment moving forward, doing more of a wild card segment. I'd love to also it be kind of cool that I'll commit just for that episode to make sure I'm also drinking healthier and stuff like that. That you and I drink non-alcoholic options on
Sure.
those episodes, and you bring a new
Yeah.
one to that. Like, we'll still have that beer-centered part of it because we're both in the beer
Of
world.
course.
So like Adam can be like, "Hey, I have this new non-alcoholic beer that's pretty cool,"
Yep.
and maybe we'll meet up before and I'll get one. Or hopefully at that time we'll be doing them
Yeah.
in person, and we'll drink the beers together. We'll try a few and have like a small like 5-minute segment on this is the new cool non-alcoholic option out there, but then move into whatever the
Yeah.
episode subject should be. But
Yeah.
if anybody else
And
has
I,
a cool option out there of
yeah.
any beers that you've been trying, get at us. You can either like come to us, respond to at the main state of mind on Instagram,
Yep.
Facebook, and stuff like that. You can reach out, and if it's something that I think is pretty cool, I'll reach out to Adam too and let him know about it, and
Yeah.
we can try some new ones too that other people
And
might
it,
know.
and as Justin said, like, I mean, I've been home brewing for a very, very, very long time. And I'm starting to mess around with making NA beer now, which is not as hard as you think. I mean, I can't make stuff to the quality level of, athletic
Yes.
brewing and partake, but in the future, stuff with that, one of these days out when I get that down a little bit, I'm going to try making my own THC infused
Mhm.
beer. And we get to that point, we can try a little THC
Yep.
infused beer and talk about that. So
It'd be fun. So I'm excited. So this will be cool future. I'm excited. This episode releases at the end of April. And so if anybody out there again has anything cool, if you want a story to share about how alcohol, like not drinking alcohol has changed your life too, feel free to reach out to us. We're all cool.
yeah,
if you've tried a THC, I have not tried a
Yeah,
THC infused drink yet.
I haven't either. I haven't either.
So if you've tried that and that's
You know
pretty
who
cool,
has
let us
tried a
know.
lot of them is Andy.
Yeah.
So like he's one we could get one day to jump in for a minute, and like he's tried every coffee and soda and out there. So
That's awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. So Adam, you can find your Dirigo Draft Services. You have this new you're on the interwebs
I
presence
am.
now. So if you
very,
need a
very
draft
back
line
with it.
cleaning, if you need draft line cleaning, and you also do you? I didn't ask you this question prior, but you would build someone's draft lines too, right?
Mhm. Sure. I mean,
And,
my limitations. I mean, I can't do a 200 tap
correct.
system, but if it's your, you know, standard anywhere up to probably like 24 tap kind of system, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Or like if you just need a line replaced, a single line replaced, or if someone's looking for just questions about
Yep.
kegerators or how to build their
Yep.
own kegerator or things like that, reach out to
Yep.
Adam, and I'm sure Adam would be able
Or
to
if, you know, if you just
facilitate
have
that.
you have a Friday night where your most popular beer stopped pouring, like
Yep.
that's another thing, as I've been saying about it, but like I don't have beers in the evening now, so I can pop by at 9 o'clock at night if your beer isn't pouring. So
Cool. So you reach out to Dirigo Draft Services. You can find him online. He is up there in the search results. So it's DirigoDraftServices.com though, right?
That's it. Yep.
So, but you can also Google it, and he comes right up there, and he's in the
Yeah.
Greater Bangor
If
area.
you Google draft line cleaning Bangor, I should come up. So
and do it. He cleans OBC's draft line. So anybody's been to Orono Brewing Company in Bangor or Orono, hot or the inside in Orono, if you've dried beer there and it tastes great, it's mainly because Adam. So the beer's good, but the lines are clean because Adam cleans it every couple of weeks. So that's pretty cool too. So check that out. Get at us if you have any questions about NA, or if you want more information about, like, again, if you wanted to talk to Adam and say, hey, I'm on the same boat as you. I love it. You're going non-alcoholic. This is pretty cool. All that stuff would be cool. So Adam will be back on in a little while. It may be a little while because I am trying to get ahead of these podcasts right now, so I can take a few weeks off when my son is born. But there also could be some times where I'm like, the baby's sleeping, and I'll just call Adam, like, Adam, you want to jump on for a second, and we'll do a podcast randomly too. So we'll see. We'll talk further about it. But I really appreciate you coming on again, Adam. This is fun.
Always.
I love chatting with you, man.
Me too.
So thanks. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Is there anything else?
No, man. I think we're good. We'll start thinking about phase 2 of the whatever this is called now. Yeah.
The not Hoppy Hour.
The not Hoppy Hour.
We're actually going to change it back to Happy Hour because we're happy that it's happening. It's not Hoppy, it's Happy Hour now.
Yeah, it's just Happy Hour now. Yeah. Happy Hour, smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them, whatever.
Oh my God. Quickly, I'll finish out with this story. So I go to Portland, and this is pre-pandemic. It's probably 2019. My friends Addie and Casey and myself.
Yep.
It was for Bissell's anniversary party. It must have been year 7 of Bissell or 8, somewhere around there. Tokyo Police Club's playing at one of the venues down in Portland. And we got backstage. We have VIP tickets and all that stuff. We're going down to Portland. A bunch of us don't go to Portland that often. We're like, let's go early. We'll go to some tasting rooms. We'll go have some drinks and so on. We go to Liquid Riot to start the day off because they were open earlier. We get the food there and the drinks and all that stuff. We call an Uber. It happens to be snowing that day that we got there. So we call an Uber, and this guy pulls up in this minivan. And he's like, no, don't get on that side. Go on the other side. We're like, what the hell? So we go around the other side. We open the door. There's a fog machine going. There's a seat. The reason why we couldn't get in that door was there was a seat against that door. So it was almost like an L in the back of the thing. Fog machine going. He had mints in this little thing. And then he starts to drive away. He has this huge, thick Texas accent and says, drink him if you got him, smoke him if you got him. And we're all like, what the hell? This is the one Uber in the world that was like, doesn't care what we do in the back of this thing. And we had nothing. We had nothing with us.
Anarchy Uber. I love it.
Yes. And we're like, oh my God, can we request this guy? And he's like, I just moved up here a couple of weeks ago. This is my first snowstorm and all that stuff. We're like, oh, we're going to die in this freaking Uber.
But there's no rules.
This is the best Uber.
That's high risk, high reward right there, man. That's how it works.
So I don't remember his name. We gave him 5 stars. Obviously, gave him 5 stars. The last part of that story is,
if you're out there, reach out to us though, so we can request you.
The moral of the story, I think the biggest moral of that story is, if you go to Portland, drink some non-alcoholic beer while you're there, because by the time we actually got to the place for the show, and had the 2 free drink tickets, I
Yep.
used one of them because I couldn't drink anymore. So
Yeah, yeah.
again, moral of the story is you go to Portland, take your time, throw a couple non-alcoholic beers in there, and ease your way through the day if you're going to a bunch of breweries, or drink water too. So sweet.
Cool.
I will talk to you soon, Adam. Thanks for coming
You know
on.
it. Always, dude.